なたのすべてが好きよ好きよ好きよ好きよ好きよ一番好きよ
Urusei Yatsura Reborn, Episode 21, S.O.S from Neptune, The Revenge of Frozen Oyuki. Ataru was sleeping soundly when a strange metallic clanking began to echo from somewhere far away. Opening his eyes, he discovered that he was once again trapped inside a cage. He looked around in sheer desperation. Suddenly, a massive shadow loomed over his prison. Standing right before him was a colossal Lum, towering over 30 feet tall. Smiling with a feline, almost sinister glint in her eyes, Ataru backed up until his spine hit the cold metal bars. No. The gigantic alien girl unlocked the cage door and thrust one of her massive hands inside. Ataru tried to scramble out of reach, but her huge fingers easily clamped around his waist. "Let me go!" Lum burst into thunderous laughter as she lifted him up into the air. "Where do you think you're going, tiny Ataru? You're so delicate, so fragile. I could snap you like a twig without even trying." She laughed again, her voice booming. "Look at you. You're nothing." Ataru squirmed desperately in her immense palm, while Lum pulled him completely out of the cage. Her grip tightened just enough to make him gasp before she chuckled once more. "Did you really think you had defeated me? Did you honestly think you humiliated me in front of everyone? Well, darling, the tables have turned. From now on, my dear darling, you'll be my little pet, and I'll be your master forever." She raised him right up to eye level, staring at him with a menacing glare. Ataru kicked his legs furiously in midair. "Lum!" All at once, the nightmare vanished. Ataru jolted awake, gasping for air. He sat bolt upright on his futon and frantically scanned the bedroom. Morning sunlight flooded the room. Right in front of him, Lum was in the middle of an intense workout session, stretching and conditioning her muscles with one of her heavy alien exercise machines. The deafening metallic clanking of weights echoed through the room. Lum continued to pump the weight plates up and down without breaking a sweat. 37, 38, 39, clank! The massive metal plates slammed together once more. Ataru stared at her in stunned silence. He finally realized that the noise haunting his nightmare had been coming from her machine all along. He swallowed hard. Allowing her to bring those high-tech exercise machines into the house was a terrible mistake, he thought grimly. "Good morning, darling. I see you're finally awake." Lum offered him a sweet, radiant smile. "What are you doing up so early, Lum?" Ataru asked, rubbing his eyes. "Well, ever since I moved in with you, I feel like I've gotten a bit slack," she replied, breezily lifting another heavy stack of weights. "I need to get back in shape, maybe even push my limits, just in case Oyuki or some other alien girl tries to steal my darling away again." She flashed a mischievous grin. "Plus, I can't have you running off to stare at other girls when you've got all this waiting for you at home." Ataru stared at her, genuine panic creeping into his chest. If she used to shock me into a crisp before, he thought, and now she's building up this kind of alien metabolism and raw muscle. In a few months, she'll be able to crush me like a walnut. I am completely doomed. Even without weight training, Lum naturally possessed the physical conditioning of an Olympic champion. She was constantly on his case, punishing him not only with high-voltage electrical shocks, but also with an arsenal of pro wrestling submission holds. And bed was no refuge either. She was utterly insatiable, giving him zero breathing room, save for Shinobu, with whom they had learned to share intimacy over the past few months, usually after intense, screaming arguments. Lum was already, by far and by her own right, the star athlete of Tomobiki High's volleyball, swimming, and track teams, and probably the strongest girl in all of Japan. Ataru dreaded to imagine how she would evolve over the coming months now that she had taken up powerlifting, especially given how much she was eating to fuel her new metabolic demands. He realized his nightmare wasn't just a silly, bad dream. It was a horrifying preview of his immediate future. It wasn't just the frustration of feeling completely overpowered in intimate moments by an alien girl, or a Japanese teenage boy's macho pride, standing beside a girl who was supposed to be smaller and weaker, yet was already half a head taller than him and visibly bigger and stronger, was absolute humiliation. He refused to be degraded to the status of a lapdog for an invading space girl. Even less did he want to become the laughingstock of all Japan, the human pet of an extraterrestrial ogress, constantly hunted, stalked, tormented, and electrocuted, no matter how drop-dead gorgeous she was or how much everyone else envied him. Nobody else understood what living with her was actually like. That was precisely why his abduction and adventure with Oyuki had felt like a true lifeline. Oyuki was probably the only girl capable of rescuing him from this domestic prison. Not only did she possess the raw power, but she also had the advanced technology to go toe-to-toe with Lum the Invader. At that exact moment, a sharp metallic click shattered his train of thought. It was the sound of a suitcase latch snapping shut. Ataru spun around and saw Shinobu fastening the lock on a rolling suitcase. "Shinobu? Where are you going?" Shinobu grabbed the handle and began dragging it determinedly toward the door. "I can't take this anymore." Ataru leapt off his futon and chased after her. Shinobu hurried down the stairs and strode across the ground floor, where a crew of carpenters was working overtime to repair the catastrophic damage to the Moroboshi house. The hammering, sawing, and loud thuds of heavy construction equipment echoed from every corner. Shinobu looked around, utterly exhausted by the chaos. "I don't know how you can stand all this noise." Lum let go of her weights and floated down gracefully behind them. "Are you leaving us, Shinobu?" Shinobu shook her head firmly. "No, I'm going back to my parents' house for a while." She glanced up at the workers fixing the ruined ceiling. "I've had it with all of this. We humans don't have super endurance like you aliens do." Without another word, Shinobu shoved open the front door and marched out into the street, wheeling her luggage behind her. Ataru and Lum stood on the threshold, staring out at the empty street in utter shock. Ataru snapped first, clutching his head in panic. "What are we gonna do? Shinobu abandoned us." Lum remained completely unbothered. "Don't be so dramatic, darling. She just needs a break from everything." She watched the carpenters hammering away at a beam above them. "Besides, school starts again tomorrow, so we'll see her then anyway." As Shinobu disappeared down the lane, Lum wrapped an arm around Ataru's shoulders, hovering right beside him with a sly grin that signaled nothing good for Ataru. "Now I have you all to myself. You're going to help me with my exercises." Lum lunged forward, tackling him onto the hallway rug. Just then, a pair of carpenters smashed through a drywall section in a cloud of plaster dust. Catching sight of Ataru and Lum tangled up on the floor, one of the workers wiped his brow and remarked, "Well, looks like these repairs are going to cost a bit more than we quoted. We're going to have to replace this wall too, boss." Meanwhile, across town in the grand reception hall of the Mendo estate, silence hung heavy in the air. Shutaro Mendo sat rigidly across from his father. The patriarch of the Mendo Zaibatsu held a stack of newspapers and tabloids in his hands, which he tossed onto the polished wooden table. Every single front page featured the exact same story. A prominent photograph showed Shutaro being shoved into a police cruiser outside a high-end restaurant, his face scorched black after taking a direct lightning strike from Lum. The giant headline read, "Mendo Zaibatsu heir arrested after brawl outside luxury restaurant." His father fixed him with a stern, icy glare. "Care to explain what this means?" Shutaro picked up one of the papers, sweat beading on his forehead. "Father, I can explain. There is no explanation that justifies this disgrace." His father slammed his hand down, pointing at the photos. "We sent you to that public high school specifically to find a way to secure access to valuable alien technology. Instead, you get yourself dragged into a gutter fight and splash our name across every tabloid in the country." "But father, you have brought dishonor to our family name." At the far end of the hall, Ryoko was lounging on a plush velvet sofa. She had been quietly enjoying the entire conversation, and now an amused smirk crossed her lips. My, big brother. Rejected and fried to a crisp by an alien girl, and now the whole world is laughing at you. Shutaro glared at her through gritted teeth. "Stay out of this, Ryoko." Their father ignored her completely and pressed on. "Starting today, not only are you grounded, but your allowance is completely cut off." Shutaro's eyes nearly popped out of his head. "No allowance? How am I supposed to live?" "You will figure it out on your own," his father snapped, standing up from his chair, "and you will continue attending that school until you learn how to conduct yourself properly." Shutaro remained frozen in silence. Perhaps rubbing shoulders with commoners outside your social class will teach you a shred of humility, his father added coldly. All those elite boarding schools in Switzerland clearly failed to instill any dignity in you. Consider this your final chance. With that, the patriarch turned on his heel and exited the hall, shutting the heavy double doors behind him. Ryoko offered her brother a mocking smile. My, what a terrible mess you've gotten yourself into. Shutaro snatched the newspaper and slammed it back down onto the table. This isn't over. He raised his head, eyes burning with resolve. I will restore my honorable name and secure that alien technology, no matter the cost. Ryoko watched him with wicked amusement. Congratulations, best of luck with that. Shutaro shot her a deadly glare, but she simply giggled. Knowing you, I highly doubt you have anything to offer that alien girl that she'd actually want. But do go on. I'm gonna thoroughly enjoy watching you fail. The following morning, Class 2-4 at Tomobiki High looked as though it had been hit by a plague. Magain, Perm, Kakugari, and Chibi were slumped over their desks, looking completely emaciated. They appeared to have aged 30 years over the winter break. They were gaunt, pale, and drained, as if every drop of their life force had been sucked dry. Even the simple act of breathing seemed to take immense effort. Ataru leaned against his desk and smirked at them sarcastically. Well, look at the big Casanovas! You guys look completely wrecked. Magain gathered the absolute last ounce of strength in his frail body and managed to push himself upright. He pointed a trembling skeletal finger at Ataru. Moroboshi, not another word. We've had more than enough of your foolishness. The other three could barely keep their heads off their desks. This is all your fault, Magain wheezed. If you hadn't come up with that brain-dead idea to rescue yourself, we never would have ended up like this. Ataru looked at them with utter disdain. Nobody forced you to come along, and nobody forced you to get tangled up with those alien girls. Perm and Kakugari helped Magain sink back into his chair before he collapsed. Right at that moment, the classroom door slid open. Shutaro Mendo stepped inside, immaculately dressed in his pristine white school uniform. Instantly, several girls in the class swarmed around him to whisper greetings. Ataru rolled his eyes in annoyance. Great, the slicked-back phony is back. I thought we were done seeing his ugly face. 2 weeks of break wasn't nearly enough time off from this jerk. Mendo stopped dead in his tracks and whipped around. What did you just say, Moroboshi? Ataru instantly wiped the scowl off his face, putting on an innocent look. Oh, I was just saying what a shame it is that break is over. It's so dreadful having to come back to boring old classes. Mendo scrutinized him for a long moment. Right. He took his seat and resumed chatting casually with his admirers. Ataru waited until Mendo turned his back, then began brazenly mocking his poses, aristocratic gestures, and refined hair flips. Mendo didn't notice a thing. The door slid open again, and Onizuka, their homeroom teacher, better known as Thermal Bath, strode into the room. I hope you all had a wonderful break, Thermal Bath muttered, slumping onto his podium. Mine was considerably less pleasant, given the pittance of a salary I received to educate this pack of wild animals. The class fell quiet. The teacher scanned the room. However, we are still blessed to have a few students who are actually worth teaching. He gestured politely toward Mendo, who offered a smooth, dignified bow. Unlike the rest of you lazy degenerates, open your textbooks to chapter 16. And so, another tedious lecture began. Lum stared down at her open textbook with blatant boredom. I don't get why I have to study this. I already speak every language on Earth. Shinobu turned to her, bewildered. Wow, must be nice. Mendo slammed his textbook shut with a huff. What nonsense! With this outdated teaching method, we'll never master proper English. Besides, I don't see why I need to sit through this when I already speak fluent English. Ataru smirked at him. Too bad. Suck it up. Mendo's head snapped around. What did you say? He leapt out of his seat and drew a wooden practice kendo sword from under his desk. Ataru didn't even bother standing up. Thermal Bath immediately intervened, slamming his attendance book on the podium. Hold it right there! Don't you two start this again! One more move, and I'm sending both of you straight to the principal's office. Mendo glared at the wooden sword in his hands, clicked his tongue, and reluctantly stowed it away. Ataru leaned back in his chair, thoroughly amused. Thermal Bath cleared his throat and resumed explaining Chapter 16 as if nothing had happened. For a brief, fleeting moment, the classroom returned to an illusion of normalcy. Then, a violent explosion rocked the entire building. A massive plume of dust and shattered concrete tore through the back wall. The students barely had time to cover their faces before a freezing Arctic gale blasted through the classroom. A thick layer of heavy frost rapidly spread across the walls, desks, and floorboards. Several students found themselves flash frozen up to their waists. Thermal Bath was frozen solid right in the middle of the room, standing like a statue with an expression of absolute, utter bewilderment on his face. Through the gaping hole in the wall floated an elegant hover skiff constructed entirely from crystalline ice. Gliding down from the craft was Princess Oyuki, escorted by a squad of tall, athletic women from Neptune. Her royal guards wore sleek, futuristic one-piece suits, high boots, and carried high-tech blasters pointed directly at the terrified students. Lum recognized the Ice Princess immediately. "Oyuki? What are you doing here?" Oyuki stepped off the skiff with serene grace. "We have come to claim what belongs to us." The guards raised their blasters in unison. "Return our humans to us," Oyuki commanded softly. "If you refuse, we will have no choice but to declare war on this planet and claim it as our territory." Magain, Perm, Kakugari, and Chibi looked at each other in sheer horror. Without a second thought, they scrambled over the ice and dove behind Lum for protection. Magain grabbed her arm, weeping. "Lum-chan, save us." Perm hid behind her back. "Don't let them take us back." Kakugari stared at the guards in absolute terror. "You have no idea what it was like over there." Chibi whimpered frantically. "Those women are insatiable. They didn't give us a single second of rest." Magain poked his head out from behind Lum. "They almost killed us." All four clung to Lum for dear life. "Please, don't let them take us back." Lum looked at them in surprise, then raised her eyes to face Oyuki. "No way! They're our friends," Oyuki replied with chilling composure. "They are not your pets." Lum furrowed her brow fiercely. "As long as they're on Earth, I'm not handing them over." Oyuki remained silent for a beat, then slowly turned her icy gaze toward Ataru. "In that case, I demand compensation." Ataru raised an eyebrow. "Compensation? Hand over the human named Ataru," Oyuki stated, "and I will consider the debt settled. He promised to teach me the mysteries of love." Ataru didn't wait for a second invitation. He dashed across the frozen floor and threw his arms around Oyuki's legs. "My beautiful Princess Oyuki! I missed you so much!" Oyuki looked down calmly and gently patted his hair. A thin layer of frost immediately coated Ataru's head, but he kept clinging to her legs as if nothing were wrong. Lum began floating off the ground, her body crackling with intense electrical surges. "No way in hell!" Ataru looked back in terror. "Lum? Ataru is my boyfriend!" Lum roared, lightning gathering in dense arcs around her horns. While Lum's electricity built to a dangerous peak, Shinobu took advantage of the confusion to confront Oyuki's guards, who still had their weapons trained on the class. One of the tall guards tried to grab Shinobu, but Shinobu hurled her over her shoulder, sending the alien guard crashing onto the floor. Another guard rushed in to assist, and Shinobu engaged both of them in a furious brawl while the rest of the students scrambled for cover. Amidst the chaos, Shutaro Mendo observed the unfolding drama with growing interest. He suddenly realized that this could be the exact opportunity he had been searching for. "If I step in and take Moriboshi's place," Mendo calculated, "I can get close to Oyuki, gain access to Neptunian technology, and win the heart of an extraordinarily beautiful woman." Mendo stepped forward heroically. "Oyuki!" The princess turned her gaze toward him. "Leave Ataru out of this," Mendo declared smoothly. "I will go in his place." Ataru blinked, staring at him. "What?" Mendo adjusted his white jacket, maintaining his usual air of noble confidence. "If anyone is to accompany Princess Oyuki, it should be a gentleman like me." Lum reacted instantly. She grabbed Ataru by the arm and sent a massive jolt of electricity surging through his body. Ataru hit the ice, writhing in agony. "Lum, wait!" Another shock made him spasm wildly. Mendo flashed Oyuki a confident, dashing smile. "You have nothing to worry about. I know the mysteries of love inside and out." Oyuki observed him with mild curiosity. Ataru managed to push himself back up, smoking slightly. Not a chance, Mendo. Mendo turned on him, annoyed. What do you want now, Moroboshi? I'm not letting you steal the beautiful Oyuki from me, Ataru yelled. You're not worthy of her. That is for her to decide. Mendo lost his composure, whipping out his wooden kendo sword once more. He raised it high to strike Ataru, but Ataru caught the blade with both hands right above his head. The two locked up, grunting as they pushed against each other. Let go of it! You let go! I saw her first! That means nothing, you brute! Lum's lightning strikes rained down on Ataru again, the electrical arc spilling over to toast Mendo as well, who refused to let go of the sword. Meanwhile, Shinobu was still trading blows with Oyuki's guards. Princess Oyuki watched the absurd spectacle unfold before her, completely unable to fathom how her arrival had devolved into such utter chaos. Ataru and Mendo were screaming at the top of their lungs over who had the right to be her companion. Lum was electrocuting both of them, and Shinobu was single-handedly fighting off a squad of elite Neptunian soldiers. For the first time since arriving in Tomobiki, Oyuki looked genuinely speechless. Shinobu caught one of the giant, sculpted guard women off balance, and using her superhuman strength, hurled both of the massive guards across the room. She dusted off her sailor uniform, tucked a stray hair behind her ear, and marched right up to Oyuki's hover skiff, utterly indignant. I swear, I will never understand you aliens! Shinobu fumed, pointing an angry finger first at Lum, and then at Oyuki. What is your obsession with my useless boyfriend? It's bad enough that this one here wants something to do with him. Now you're coming down from space to do the exact same thing? Oyuki and her guards exchanged puzzled looks, bewildered by her rant. At that moment, the Princess of Neptune reached beneath her skiff's control console and pulled out a strange handheld device featuring a digital screen and a pointed needle indicator. Upon seeing the device, Megain and the stormtroopers instinctively recoiled in terror, scrambling behind Lum's legs. Don't worry, boys, it isn't a weapon, Oyuki reassured them with a sweet, gentle smile. She pointed the device at the four troopers to test it. Megain, 35, Oyuki read calmly. Perm, 30. Kakugari, 30. Chibi, 20. Then she swung the device around and pointed it directly at Shutaro Mendo. Mendo, 75. Upon hearing his score, all the alien guards in Oyuki's squad blushed furiously, fanning their cheeks and letting out a collective, flirtatious, ooh! Mendo, feeling deeply flattered, adjusted his collar and smirked arrogantly. Then Oyuki aimed the device straight at Ataru Moroboshi. Within a split second, the needle on the device went completely haywire. It shot from 30 to 70, then 80, 100. Oyuki's guards widened their eyes and gasped in astonishment. But the needle didn't stop there. It blasted past 150, 180, and hit the maximum limit of 200 points. The needle vibrated violently, slamming against the metallic stop pin as if it were about to explode. The Neptunian women gasped, clutching each other in equal parts terror, shock, and extreme arousal, as if standing before a terrifying force of nature. Ataru, on the other hand, crossed his arms and puffed out his chest, wearing a look of supreme personal satisfaction. Oyuki smiled with cool indifference, turning to Lum. My. I see you were trying to scam me, Lum. You wanted to keep the finest human specimen in the collection for yourself and dump this useless one on us instead? She pointed dismissively at Mendo. Mendo slammed his fist onto a frozen desk, demanding answers. Hey, what exactly does that machine measure anyway? Oyuki smiled serenely and explained, this device measures sexual drive and libido. Mendo paused, shrugged his shoulders with complete disdain and huffed, well, of course. What else could a loser like Moroboshi possibly beat me at? Shinobu took in the absurd scene, let out a deep, exhausted sigh, and looked Oyuki dead in the eye. Oyuki, isn't there any way we can settle this like civilized people? A short while later, the scene in the center of Class 2-4 was truly bizarre. All the boys, Ataru, Mendo, the stormtroopers, the rest of the male students, and even Thermal Bath, were jammed together in the middle of the room, perched atop a massive makeshift mountain constructed from frozen desks and chairs. Every single one of them was frozen solid from the waist down, brooding in bitter frustration while being quietly held at gunpoint by Oyuki's guard squad. A few feet away, in a cleared, frost-free corner of the classroom, Shinobu, Oyuki, and Lum were comfortably seated around a small table, casually playing a game of Mahjong. My, today must be my lucky day! Lum cheered merrily, arranging her tiles. I won again! Oyuki gracefully laid her tiles on the table with an elegant sigh. Ah well, there's no beating you today, Lum. She paused, picking up her tea. By the way, Lum, are you going to Rand's birthday party this weekend? Of course, Lum replied, looking up with a thoughtful expression. Though, I still have no idea what to get her. Lum shrugged her shoulders in mild resignation. You know Ran, she's not an easy girl to please.